Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me. This is GGF bringing you episode 86 of Let's Try Pathfinder, Wrath of the Righteous. Hope you guys are well. Ready to check out some more Pathfinder with me. I've been putting these latest 80s episodes together pretty quickly, one after the other, in real time. And definitely interested to see where we go from here. We have to go meet with Leoter, I think his name was, and get into some more adventure today. So, first of all, there's Erebeth's over here. Let's go talk to her. Commander, allow me to say something. Erebeth looks even more serious than usual. Before you, this wasn't a war. It was agony drawn out over decades. No one believed in victory anymore. When the demons attacked the city, for some it was a relief. At least the end had come. They laid down their weapons and surrendered without a fight. I felt the same thing, but I somehow got through on stubbornness and the vague hope that if nobody found Anevia's body, she might by some miracle have survived. And that miracle was you. You returned my beloved to me when I nearly lost all hope of seeing her alive again. Then you went on a suicide mission to the Grey Garrison and won the city back for us. You turned a defeat into a victory. I know it wasn't easy, but you make everything seem so effortless. You do everything just like that, she says with a snap of her fingers. The Queen believes in your powers too, but for me, they're just more proof of what I felt that day. When I saw Anevia alive, standing next to you, you're the miracle we've been waiting for. You're the one who will finally put an end to this terrible war, and in spite of everything, deliver us the victory we so desperately need. With you, I'm sure this crusade will achieve what the others could not. I found a scabbard with your family name on it at the Grey Garrison. Erebeth looks down, 230 XP. This scabbard held the solemn hour, my family's sword. My father once fought with it, and I took it when I left home to become a paladin. Alas, it was not stolen. I parted with my heirloom willingly to help someone dear to me. Anevia needed expensive healing, and having no other way to procure the money, I pawned my father's sword. I think he would have understood. I'm sure he would have given up everything to help the family. I hoped to redeem the solemn hour eventually, but there was never enough money, and soon the sword disappeared from the pawn shop altogether. I have no idea who took it. Seems like I'll have to part with my father's sword forever. Is Anevia sick? You'll forgive me if I don't go into detail. It's a private matter. Suffice to say, everything is fine now. The treatment was costly, but it was worth it. I can see you truly love her. A delicate blush appears on Erebeth's cheeks. She nods silently, performed an action that was good. Erebeth lovingly traces the name imprinted in silver on the scabbard's leather. My parents were loyal servants, yet it wasn't enough to earn them a title or a coat of arms. Still, however humble our name might be, it is worth something. I don't know if I'll ever see the solemn hour again, but at least I have its scabbard back. Thank you. It's hard to believe your origin is so humble. You deserve a noble title more than many who inherit them. Erebeth's cheeks blush a little. Thank you, Commander. It is an honor to hear that, especially from you. Every noble family begins somewhere. You have just heard the recent story from the Stolen Lands and the River Kingdoms. Just imagine, coming from nowhere and making it all the way to a royal crown in just a few years. And of course, the Stolen Lands were the site of the first Kingmaker game, or the first Pathfinder game, Kingmaker. They're an almost unwholly settled region in the northeastern section of the River Kingdoms, bordering the nation of Brevoy, serving as a buffer between Brevoy and the River Kingdoms. Traditionally the haunt of bandits and monstrous humanoids, the stolen lands are regarded as stolen by all nations along their border, even though none have ever been able to keep these realms under their control for long. Sometimes I wonder what would happen if I managed to distinguish myself somehow, but then I push away such unworthy, selfish thoughts, of course. We don't fight for rewards. The fate of the world is at stake, and yet... Erebeth's blush deepens and she falls silent. So it turns out that the Queen has had her head of counterintelligence watching me? I wonder why. You think the Queen doesn't trust you? If that were true, she wouldn't have put you in charge of this army. My main task is to be your advisor until you gain enough experience as a commander. As for counterintelligence, Anevi and I were tasked with keeping an eye on your inner circle, but you're not under suspicion, Commander. You're under our protection. We need reinforcements. Can you get us more soldiers? Erebeth frowns. When we began the march on Dresden, we chose speed over numbers. If I order more volunteers to be recruited, they simply won't arrive in time. We could pay mages to deliver the troops to the camp, except I doubt that our army's coffers could afford it. If you can spare 7,500 gold coins, I will see to our reinforcements. Perhaps later. As you command. I have to go. Erebeth says goodbye with a short bow. Oh. More loot? Ember? Ember is bobbing her head and humming a tune. She greets you with a carefree, cheerful smile. Her wandering eyes linger on you for just a moment before darting off again to the distance. How are you handling your new abilities? Abilities? The girl tilts her head to her shoulder. What are you talking about? Oh, the tricks you learned when the big gray house blew up. They're funny. Thanks for teaching them to me. The Queen gave me the title of Knight Commander and put me in charge of an army. What do you think about that? The elf focuses her wandering gaze on your eyes, smiles, and shakes her head. Don't believe titles. All of us in the world are children of the street. Barefoot, hungry, scared, a step away from death. Some imagine they're strong and rich like gods, but don't forget who you really are behind the title. I have to go, so go. The elf watches you with a radiant smile as you leave. I guess we got more loot. We've got a first aid kit, eggs, 2 cheese, and 3 butter. Let's make a cheesy omelet.
Follow my steps.
There's Nenio. Ah, boy, there you are. Very good, just in time. You'll be delighted to know that I need you for an experiment. So, the great garrison stands ruthless. Demons are running for the hills with their tails between their legs. Mendev's queen, what's her name? It's on the tip of my, yes, Galfrey, is scurrying to and fro, and all this is somehow connected to you, my loyal follower. Thus far, there is no scientific evidence of your exceptionality, if one discounts blind faith and divine intervention, which I do. We people of science refuse to believe in the inexplicable without any proof. We are the ones who explain the inexplicable. Nenio punctuates her statement with an energetic sweep of her arm. And therefore, open your mouth and say, ah, for me. Open your mouth. Nenio peers into your mouth with a practiced eye. Alright, your throat's fine, tongue looks perfectly normal, your breath, she sniffs. The smell is in line with the regular functioning of the digestive system. Now for your teeth. She sticks one hand in your mouth and probes each of your teeth in turn with the skill of a seasoned dentist. No detectable alterations. By the way, did you know that many individuals, while being wholly civilized representatives of their races, still have an amazingly powerful bite? As if suddenly recalling something, Nenio promptly pulls her hand out of your mouth. Say nothing. Moving on. Alright, what do we have next? Ears. Let's check your hearing. Testing. Nenio yells right in your ear and nods in satisfaction as she observes your reaction. Your hearing is fine. Was fine. But don't worry, it's scientifically proven that it should return to normal soon. Next, Nenio circles you. Eyes are clear, posture is satisfactory, limb length is standard, no lice. She stops, rubs her chin in contemplation, and in a slightly dejected tone says, Boy, you are the picture of health. It's a pity. I was expecting to find some anomaly. Well, now let's assess your mental state. Imagine a hypothetical situation. You are a tree. 2 squirrels have found their way into your hollow and are now copulating there. What do you do? Let them copulate. Why should I care? An unconscious act of good, allowing 2 lesser creatures to procreate while protecting them during this crucially important process. On to the next question. Another hypothetical situation. You are a tomato. You have just been picked from the vegetable patch and put onto a crate. You know that today the cook will use half of the tomatoes from your crate to make soup. What do you do? If I'm going to be eaten, then there's not much I can do. That's the fate of a tomato. An unconscious act of submitting to the unspoken rules and laws underpinning the functioning of the universe. Yes, it is all quite clear to me. Angelic self-sacrifice in the face of certain death, and angelic concern for lesser creatures. You certainly have something of an angel in you. On that note, I deem this experiment complete. Thank you for your participation. Nanio looks at you pensively and then gestures at you with a wide sweep of her arm. And yet you remain a puzzle to me. I love puzzles. One of these days I will solve you completely, unless I forget. Now I have time to answer your questions. Come on, ask away. Tell me about yourself. Okay. I have to go? Huh.
Let's head out.
Wait, what's going on down here? Nothing. We can just come out this way. Wait, there's still loot in that? Oh, okay. 3 ale, 2 glass. Very worthwhile. Worth 88 apiece. Alright, let's see what we've got here. Lan, you're next. What brings you here? What do you think of what happened in the Great Garrison? Did you feel a change in yourself? It's hard not to notice when the demons start running away from you like a flock of frightened bats. Powers granted by Aomade to defeat demons. Lan raises his hand above his head and pensively scratches behind his single horn. Since I was a kid, I've taken whatever I've been given and used it as best I can. Anything goes when you're trying to survive. Doesn't matter where your blessings come from. We can think about that. We can think about that when we're old, if we live that long. But you know, this time, even I'm not so sure. A divine power that just appears out of nowhere? Sooner or later, we'll have to pay for it. I'd like to know what the price will be. Thank you for your answers. So long. Pay for it. I didn't think about that. There's Camellia. Greetings! The neat smile on Camellia's lips disappears so quickly you almost wonder if you imagined it. What do you think of the powers you received from me? Camellia shrugs nonchalantly. People of noble descent grow accustomed to ample opportunity. The powers I've received from you are useful, but I see no point in treating them with excessive piety. I have to go. We'll talk later. I won't keep you. The dawning smile on Camellia's face freezes and quickly dies away.
Let us be careful.
Halor. Let us be careful. Halor? Halor nods approvingly. You've earned the title of Commander Canabras. Commander, Canabras still stands thanks to you, but you'll have to be doubly on your guard. Your Eminence places a target on your back, and there are assassins about. Killing a high-ranking crusader would bring a demon far more prestige than killing a common soldier. Not long ago, I stymied a few of the Spinner of Nightmares' attempts on the lives of influential crusaders, so I know what I'm talking about. What influential crusaders did you say from the Spinner of Nightmares? I'd been hunting the Spinner of Nightmares for over a year. My agents, by the time I'd created a proper network, reported to me that she'd returned to Nerosian. I immediately suspected that she was planning a great atrocity, By that time, I learned all too well that the spinner was master of illusions and charms. That's why I never left the house without this. The Lord takes a monocle from his pocket and puts it on carefully. This is the Eye of Truth. It allows me to see through illusions. My friend got it from the priests of Nethys. However, neither this monocle nor my network of agents were adequate to prevent the attacks, and we were nearly too late. The Spinner of Nightmares decided to strike at the Cruciform Cathedral. They had gathered to celebrate the victory of the First Crusade. It was a great holiday, and there was a lavish ceremony at the cathedral. An influential priest, Anthoclitus, was in charge of the festivities. They were intending to crown him with a tiara, a symbol of his high status, but the sacred tiara had been replaced. The spinner had obtained an incuculus, a sentient and rather ominous cephalopod from the other end of the world. She'd raised it from an elver and trained it carefully, and she cast an illusion on it so that everyone would see it as a tiara. An incuculus? The moment the shell was placed on Anthoclitus's head, the cephalopod would release its tentacles and penetrate the priest's skull. Its poison would seep into his brain, and it would seize control over Anthoclitus's dead body. Fortunately, we were able to stop this madness in time. I spotted the Spinner of Nightmares in the crowd, chased her down, and we ended up crossing swords on the roof of the cathedral. I nearly defeated her, but she fled upon a giant stallion, which was able to run across the air as if it were on the ground. I was so close to catching her, she'd suffer a setback, but I let her escape. Valor's bitter and angry smile shows he hasn't made peace with his failure. Tell me about your confrontation with the Spinner of Nightmares. It's a long story. Telling you everything would take 2 days. What part do you want to know? We'll go through this again. I'll begin with the task of the Pathfinder Society. I arrived in Nurah with my team to investigate the sudden death of a famous crusader, Baron Falron. We soon focused in on a small hospital for the wealthy, where Falron was being treated shortly before his death. Turned out that a gang of Baphomet's cultists, calling themselves the Labyrinth of Mind, had gotten a foothold at the hospital. And Pathfinder Society is a globe-spanning organization based in Absalom. The membership consists primarily of Pathfinders, adventurers who travel throughout Golarion, usually inconspicuously, and explore, delve, and otherwise experience the lesser-seen parts of the world. They send journals documenting their travels back to their venture captains, who also assign them new missions and suggest new places to explore. The most exciting and illuminating of these journals are compiled in the Pathfinder Chronicles, an ongoing series of books that collect the history and mystery of Golarion for its membership and the general public. They were obsessed with twisting the minds of their victims and targeted fragile people too weak to resist. The hospital was filled with perfect victims, isolated for weeks from the outside world, completely helpless, and when they returned, they were different, almost normal, but the moment they heard a certain phrase, something dark awoke in their mind, and they transformed into servants of Baphomet, ready to lie, betray, and even kill. The Labyrinth of Mind was preparing to infiltrate all the elite circles in Mendev, but Baron Falron stopped them. He was too loyal to his oath and too resistant to their spells. He fought for his freedom until the strain broke his heart. We opened and cleaned the city of Baphomet's pit of vipers. Their den was a cradle of sin and filth. They cast spells on each other, and their loathsome fantasies stepped real from their minds into the world. They dreamt of horrible and forbidden things, and they fought like mad. We burned the place to the ground and slaughtered everyone we could find. But the leaders of the cult were able to flee, and they were set upon revenge. They abducted my daughter Laurie, who served under my command in the Pathfinder Society. They left me a note full of tart insults, mockery, and sneers. From that note, I learned the name of my enemy, the Spinner of Nightmares. A few months later, I confirmed that she was the leader of the Labyrinth of Mind. My hunt had begun. I would get Lowry back at any cost. The Lord grits his teeth while building determination. We know the influential Crusaders. Right. Talk about this later. As you wish, Commander. I need brave and experienced fighters. You can rely on my lads, but you'll have to pay them. 18,000 is their standard rate. Alright. I don't have that money. I'm sorry, but the society has established universal rates to avoid competition between Pathfinders of different countries. I have to go. Good luck. Watch your back. Only trust your closest friends. The enemy is cunning and treacherous. Nurah Dendawar. We can come in here. There's Nurah. Well, let's help ourselves to our chest first. 86 gold, a corn liquor, silver buckle worth 33, light hammer, and 3 rainbow quartz. Knight Commander, how can I help? There's much I can do, just ask. Nurah looks at you with eyes filled with enthusiasm. She's holding a notebook and a traveler's inkwell. You've probably heard about the wound I have, the one that sometimes opens on my chest. Can you perhaps tell me if it's some kind of demonic curse? Yes, indeed. I've been told of your affliction. Nurah appears at the center of your chest. Can you will the wound to open? No? That's a shame. What can you tell me about this wound? Well, it's difficult to say. I know of blades that leave never-healing cuts, of poisons that stop wounds from healing. I've heard of witches' curses that are rewarded with eternal wounds, but wounds that seem to reopen and heal over and over? Perhaps you know of other cases like this. Let me think. In 4671, a Mandavian army corporal had all his bones and cartilage turned to glass. In 4700, a scribe in Canabras had all her skin simply come away like she'd been boiled. And in 4638, oh, you don't happen to have insects crawling over you, locusts, no? Rats, perhaps. Too bad. Nurah looks at you with genuine regret. Do you think it's dangerous? It most likely is dangerous, but you are under the protection of Iomade, Commander. She granted you mythic power, as they say. Surely the Inheritor would not leave you to face this alone? Have you perhaps noticed that the wound opens at moments when you waver in your faith? Perhaps it is triggered by doubt. Frowning, Nurah looks at you with sincere concern. That's a good point, actually. Thank you for your answers. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you anything useful. I'll be sure to study this matter and consult a few of my encyclopedias. Tell me about yourself. Oh my, I could tell you so many amazing things, and you choose the most boring one of all. But all right, about myself then. Where are you from? Isgur, a small piece of land that proudly calls itself a country, though it hasn't been independent for a single day in all the centuries it's existed. They have a lot of national pride, but all of it is borrowed, always looking to the great day when they can at last be free from the rule of Cheliax. Cheliax, Infernal Cheliax, remains one of the most powerful military nations in the Inner Sea region. Its control of the Arch of Aroden, the passage between the Inner Sea and the Arcadian Ocean, also gives it a vital role in much of the region's trade. Nevertheless, as important as the nation may be today, it pales in comparison to its former imperial glories. Today, Cheliax suffers from extreme diabolism and tyranny, which prevent it from truly achieving its full potential. Internal observers, including the new nobility of Cheliax, firmly believe that Asmodeus and Hel serve Cheliax and assist in maintaining the power necessary for Cheliax to assume its rightful role among the leading nations of the Inner Sea. The Asgari love talking politics. If two of them start bargaining over beets at the market, you can be sure that they'll end up arguing about whether an independent Isgur will be a monarchy or a republic. I've always found it funny to listen to, and a little disgusting. You see, there are a lot of us halflings in the country, but very few are citizens. Most are slaves. I was lucky. I've always been clever, ever since I was little, so they sent me to school instead of making me do the grunt work. They taught me to count and write, and I was sold as a secretary to Lord Axelar Tresbot. He's the one I left Isgur with, never to return, I hope. How did you come to serve Queen Galfrey? I was a slave of Lord Axelar Tresbot in Isgur, my homeland. Oh, what a man he was. He towered over his fellows like a rock over a garbage heap. A true hero. He bought me as a simple secretary, but he made me learn the history of the Worldwound. All of it, one volume after another. He hired tutors for me, even sent me to meet prominent historians. He didn't want a simple slave, but a slave with an impeccable education. And the Worldwound, right, we know about that. A demon-haunted wasteland that lies at the northernmost reaches of central Avestan, the Worldwound is an unnatural blight. It is a rift to the abyss opened on the material plane. It appeared shortly after the death of the god Arodin and at the beginning of the Age of Lost Omens, and is probably the greatest threat to life on the face of Galarian. Lord Tresbot was going on a crusade. He firmly believed that the servants of the good gods were weak, and only a follower of Asmodeus could stand against the demon invasion. He took me along as a secretary, a historian, and, most importantly, he entrusted me with recording his glorious story for future generations. And Asmodeus, also known as the King of Heck, Master of Witches, and Prince of Law, is the most powerful of the 9 archdevils that inhabit Heck, and the only one of Heck's rulers to claim full divinity. It is he who is credited with penning the contract of creation, in which his followers believe is hidden the means for their patron's eventual rise to supremacy. That's interesting. Of the 9 archdevils that inhabit Heck, and the Crusade. Okay. In his crusade, Lord Tresbot performed many brave feats, but even he could not stand against the Worldwound alone. In his final battle with the demons, when my lord realized he was doomed, his final act was to cover my retreat, so that I could tell the world of his great deeds. Some people have said what he did was not heroic, just an arrogant moron puffing himself up one last time, but I say curse their tongues. My difficult journey ended in Mendev, where I found my freedom. There I published Lord Tresbot's biography, and I don't want to boast, but who am I kidding? Of course I do. The book sold in great numbers and made me rather famous for a time. That's what brought me to the Queen's attention. She invited me to her court. After all, she was curious about my deceased lord, and she was in great need of an expert on the history of the Worldwound. I hope you'll find me useful as well. So you're not just a historian, but a writer too? Will you write a book about my crusade? Haha, why not? As soon as we finish off the demons, I'll get right to it. Just take care that you don't end up like Lord Tresbot. Do you worship any deity? She makes a wry face. When I was a slave in Isgir, they would beat me with a stick to force me into believing in Asmodeus. They hit me and said it was for my own good. Ever since then, I don't like temples. I realize there are different gods like Desna or Caden who teach goodness and freedom, but it's just, as soon as I smell frankincense, I see the slave driver's stick. Maybe one day I'll be able to turn to a deity without cringing from a blow for not being reverent enough. But for now I let others pray for me. Nurah's smile trembles and collapses. Desna, that's our deity. We know about the Great Dreamer, Mother Moon, Caden, Kaleen, god of alcohol, bravery, and freedom, is one of the Ascended, those mortals who achieved godhood by passing the test of the Starstone. Because legend tells that he passed the test while intoxicated, he is also known as the Lucky Drunk, the Drunken Hero, or the Accidental God. Succeeded at perception check. Nurah sounds sincere, but you feel that she's holding something back. Gain 24 XP, but we can't press her on it. I rolled a 13. Thank you for your answers. You're welcome, but you should ask me about something more interesting. Tell me the history of the Worldwound. Oh, I could talk about that for hours. What exactly do you want to know? Tell me about Old Sarkoris. It was an unforgiving country inhabited by numerous tribes of Kellan barbarians. Imagine Numeria, but without the Metal Mountains, or the realm of the Mammoth Lords, but with a milder climate. That's Sarkoris. The country was ruled by priests of forgotten deities and shamans. Okay, so imagine Numeria. Once a rising power poised to unite its neighbors under its banner, today Numeria has fallen into decay. Here savagery and science exist side by side. Amid the wreckage of a crashed starship from a distant world, technomancers from across Galarian flock to research and exploit the technological wonders found within the otherworldly ruins. Meanwhile, tribes of primitive barbarians cling to age-old tradition and eschew technology in favor of their own raw skill and martial prowess. This is a nation where, under the auspices of technological advancement and the betterment of civilization, a select few rule a subjugated nation as despots and tyrants, placing their own power and continued reign above the well-being of their citizens. But without the Metal Mountains or the realm of the Mammoth Lords, a realm of megafauna inhabited by humans almost as savage as the prehistoric beasts surrounding them. The realm of the Mammoth Lords is a land in Avistan's far north that is home to myriad nomadic tribes of Kellan barbarians. And we're learning about Sarkoris now. It is said that even back then, before the Worldwound, the boundary between worlds was especially thin in this region. Since ancient times, Discari has had his claws sunk deep into the minds of the locals. His cults thrived here for many centuries. Arodin tried to stamp them out, but in the end, of course, he passed away. We know who Arodin is. Always interesting to read, though. The immortal Aslanti who raised the Starstone from the bottom of the Inner Sea, and in so doing founded the city of Absalom and ascended to godhood. Prophecy told of his return to Galarian and the beginning of a new age of glory. On the eve of his return, however, his clerics were cut off from his power, and terrible storms racked the world. Now presumed dead, Arodin's demise ushered in the current age of lost omens. Interesting stuff. Let me hit my water bottle. Alright. Sorry, I'm a little stuffed up, guys. How did the Worldwound come to be? It happened the year Arodin died, 4606, a little over a century ago. No one knows if the timing was coincidental or if there's some connection with Arodin's death, but I'll tell you what we do know. The priests and shamans who ruled Sarkoris hated arcane magic and all who practiced it. Wizards and sorcerers were driven from the land, or worse. One of their prisons held a witch named Arilu Vorlesh. We know nothing about her besides her name and, of course, the atrocities she committed. By some unknown method, she managed to harness the terrible power of the demon lord Discari. Together, they tore open the barrier between worlds, opening a rift to the abyss in the very middle of Sarkoris. The Worldwound slowly but mercilessly expanded, devouring more and more land. In a matter of years, Sarkoris was a memory. The most powerful of the demons are unique demigods, rulers of the abyss with their own individual powers and abilities. These demon lords are known throughout the multiverse, and many cults worshipping them exist on the material plane. The total number of demon lords is beyond knowing. Of the countless powerful demons who rule the various layers of the abyss, some are more widely known and worshipped. The most ubiquitous demon lord, and the only one to have attained full godhood, is Lamashtu, the mother of monsters. After a moment of silence, Nurah adds softly, "Sometimes I think, what did they do to Arilu in that prison? Just imagine, she was ready to give herself to the abyss, if only the demons might devour her torturers along with her. To imagine such hatred, it terrifies me." Tell me about the First Crusade. It began in 4622. Yes, it took the church and secular authorities nearly 2 decades and hundreds of thousands of lives before they decided to take action. In the meantime, Sarkoris was only supported by handfuls of volunteers. By the time the crusade began, the demons had already invaded Mendev. The Crusaders pushed them back in what must have seemed a total triumph at the time. The forces of good easily crushing the demons on all fronts. They erected Dresden on the lands they conquered, an indestructible fortress, and the capital of the Crusader movement. In 4630, 8 years after it began, the First Crusade was declared victorious. It was the first triumph of the Crusaders, and unfortunately, the last. Tell me about the Second Crusade. In 4638, the Worldwound suddenly started expanding, and a new wave of demons appeared. The Crusaders were all but delighted. Last time they'd routed the forces of the Abyss, and they welcomed another chance to prove themselves. But this time, everything was different. Instead of scattered gangs, they faced a large and organized army. Dresden was besieged, and the Crusaders lost all the lands they'd won back before. They had to retreat, and all that remained of Sarkoris was left to the demons. But while the monsters were devouring the unprotected lands, the Crusaders erected a chain of wardstones along the border with the Worldwound. We have Iomade and her herald to thank for their help. It was the Second Crusade's only victory, but it halted the wound's growth. The catastrophe had become a stalemate at the cost of tremendous sacrifice. And again, her herald is the hand of the inheritor. A herald is a deity's favored servant who acts as a messenger and emissary throughout the planes. While not necessarily the most powerful of a deity's servants, heralds embody fundamental elements of a god's faith and philosophies, and thus prove particularly suited to interactions with mortal worshippers. Iomede's herald, the hand of the inheritor, is a warrior angel always ready to answer Iomede's call whenever she must directly intervene on Golarion. With his angelic speed and might, he leads the charge when the inheritor's celestial armies must go to war. A veteran of countless sorties into the abyss, the hand fights with the song of battle on his lips and unbreakable courage in his heart. When he is not needed on Golarion, he escorts noble souls through the astral plane to Pharasma's court, patrols the borders of Iomede's realm in search of abominations from the abyss, duels devils on neutral ground to better learn their tactics, and watches over youths his patron has marked for greatness. Wow. Escorting noble souls through the astral plane to Pharasma's court. That's pretty cool. Tell me about the Third Crusade. About 50 years after the opening of the Worldwound, Discari found an ally. Baphomet entered the war, a cunning, insidious demon lord who prefers deception to open conquest. He sets his enemies against each other and lures the virtuous onto the path of wickedness. Traitors appeared among the Crusaders, secret agents of his cult. Demon lord of beasts, labyrinths, and minotaurs, Baphomet was the first and greatest minotaur, a beast created by Lamashtu to serve as leader for her latest creations, seeking even greater favor from the mother of monsters. Baphomet sought to raid Hek to steal Asmodeus's ruby rod. One second, guys. Unfortunately for him, he was caught. As punishment, the Prince of Darkness inscribed his own symbol on the Minotaur Lord's brow with the nail of his index finger and imprisoned him in a maze so cunningly crafted that Asmodeus declared it unsolvable. In this act, the Lord of Hek overstepped. The cunning Baphomet not only solved the maze after only a decade, he stole the labyrinth itself from Hek, taking it with him when he returned to the Abyss. Baphomet claimed this new realm for himself. He plots and schemes from his redoubt to return to Hek, this time not to steal from Asmodeus, but to slay him. For a time, no one suspected a thing, even as they watched helplessly as the Crusader movement fell to ruin. Where once valor proudly stood, now greed and dumb cruelty reigned, and outrage was drowned in apathy. In 4665, the Church denounced a new crusade, hoping to boost morale. They didn't succeed, to put it mildly. Some fought the demons in earnest, and for a time they even dared hope to retake Dresden. But the Third Crusade would be remembered as a witch hunt in every sense. Inquisitors hoped to purge any cultists from the ranks of fighters, but instead they got a barrage of denunciations, widespread suspicion, and innocent victims. It sometimes happened that two orders would denounce each other as traitors and wipe each other out, much to the demons' delight. Witch hunt. Mendavian witch hunts. During the First Crusade, holy warriors streamed into Mendev where they encountered Sarkorians practicing their unique druidic faiths. The Crusaders mistook the wooden idols and rustic rituals for evidence of demonic influence. Groups of witch hunters emerged from the disorganized chaos of the First Crusade. These witch hunters were often self-styled, their tactics little more than brutal trial and error. The least bit of evidence could mark a target for investigation, a clubbed foot, a thick accent, or even a suspicious absence of abnormalities. The witch hunter groups gained reputations for being cruel and arbitrary, although these weren't always deserved. Demons ranged freely across the Worldwound and often spilled into Mendev. Demonic possession did happen, though not nearly as often as the witch hunters claimed. Genuine witch hunters used divination magic and cautious investigation to draw out and destroy fiends, but they were rare compared to the zealous inquisitors who burned innocents at the stake. With the advent of the Fourth Crusade, the authorities took strong measures to end the bloody witch hunts of Mendev. Since then, the frequency of hunts has dropped considerably. Well, that's good, at least. Just 3 years later, in 4668, the Church put the disgrace to an end. Of all the Crusades, that one was the least glorious. Tell me about the Fourth Crusade. Of course, the demons had no intention of sitting quietly caged behind the ward stones. They kept attacking Canobris, trying to reach the stone and destroy it, or just scratch its surface, or, if even that wasn't possible, befoul it. The Crusaders drove the demons from the city again and again. The Fourth Crusade would last for 15 years, an exhausting study in positional warfare. The demons attacked and they were pushed back. The Crusaders went on the offensive but were forced to retreat, and all the while, the losses were tremendous. The Fourth Crusade's only achievement was that they didn't let a single ward stone fall. They didn't retake a sliver of land, to say nothing of Dresden. So many lives just to maintain the stalemate. You can imagine how that affected morale. Thank you for your answers. My pleasure. You just have to remember to stop me or I'll go on about it forever. I have to go. If you have any questions, come back. Magdalar. Let's brush the cobwebs off that one. All interesting stuff, though. We're 40 minutes in. Oh my gosh. I cannot believe it. I cannot believe it. Well, guys, we still didn't get through the Crusader camp. I don't know how much more we have to go. We can go talk to Horgus. There's loot over there. Wooljiff. We'll talk to these peeps next time, so I hope you'll join me for that. But as always, thank you for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please press the like button. Give this video a thumbs up. Or you could also leave a comment as well. Those two things are two ways to let me know that you want to see more. Thus, more will get made. And yeah, I hope to see you guys next time. Do come back. There's more fun to be had here. Plenty more, I assure you. How much more that gets made? Probably still plenty, because I'm definitely still interested. I want to set out on an adventure with this new act and do some quests and stuff, so that should be cool. What we do next time is continue to clear the camp out here of dialogue and then head out on the adventure path. So if you're new to my channel, welcome as well, and I hope you enjoyed this. Feel free to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any uploads. Would be awesome of you. Love to have you tag along. And until next time, guys, be well, live well, stay well, and much love, peace, and joy. We'll try to crack some more of this code next time. Lots more fun to be had. See you guys then. Bye-bye.